The clattering of pans and the sizzling of food filled the air in Mr. Johnson's bustling restaurant kitchen. It was a typical evening rush, but tonight, chaos reigned supreme. The new cook, Jake, fresh out of culinary college, moved frantically from one station to another, struggling to keep up with the relentless pace. Mr. Johnson, watching from the kitchen entrance, rubbed his temples in frustration. "Jake, you need to pick up the pace. The orders are piling up, and customers are getting impatient." Jake, beads of sweat forming on his forehead, stammered, "I'm trying, Mr. Johnson. This is way more intense than what I trained for." A seasoned chef, Maria, shot a glance at Mr. Johnson and whispered, "Boss, this guy's not cut out for the job. We can't afford to have him slowing us down." Ignoring Maria's advice, Mr. Johnson barked, "Jake, focus. We can't afford any mistakes tonight. Our reputation is on the line." As the tension escalated, the head waiter, Alex, approached Mr. Johnson, concern etched on his face. "Boss, we've got customers walking out. They can't wait any longer for their orders." Mr. Johnson clenched his fists, realizing the severity of the situation. "Jake, step aside. Maria, take over. We need to salvage what's left of this evening." The atmosphere in the kitchen became more intense as Maria efficiently took control, guiding the team through the remaining orders. Mr. Johnson, frustrated but determined, navigated the chaos, resolving to address the issue after the storm had passed. Later that night, in the dimly lit kitchen, Maria approached Mr. Johnson, her tone stern. "Boss, we can't keep this up with Jake. He's a liability, and it's affecting the whole team." Mr. Johnson sighed, realizing the gravity of the situation. "I'll deal with it tomorrow, Maria. We can't afford another night like this." Little did Mr. Johnson know, the events of this chaotic evening would set in motion a series of unforeseen events that would reshape his perspective on life and business. The sterile scent of the hospital surrounded Mr. Johnson as he sat anxiously in the doctor's office, awaiting the results of his recent tests. Dr. Mitchell, a no-nonsense professional, entered with a somber expression. "Mr. Johnson, I'm afraid the news isn't good. The tests confirm that you have stage 4 liver cancer." Dr. Mitchell delivered the harsh reality. Mr. Johnson, stunned, looked at the doctor. "Stage 4. How long do I have?" Dr. Mitchell hesitated. "It's difficult to predict precisely, but we're looking at a matter of months, not years. I recommend discussing treatment options." Mr. Johnson, his mind racing, shook his head. "No treatments. Just tell me how to manage the pain." Dr. Mitchell sighed, "I understand. We'll focus on palliative care then. I'll prescribe medication to alleviate the pain and improve your quality of life." As Mr. Johnson left the hospital, the weight of the diagnosis pressed heavily on him. He decided to take a solitary walk in a nearby park, grappling with the reality of his limited time. Later that evening, in the dim glow of his living room, Mr. Johnson stared at the prescription in his hands. He muttered to himself, "Palliative care. So this is how it ends." His phone buzzed with a call from his longtime friend, Richard. "John, I heard about the diagnosis." "I'm so sorry, Mr. Johnson," a hint of bitterness in his voice, responded. "Yeah, well, life's full of surprises, isn't it?" Richard, trying to console, said, "You should spend your time doing things you love, John. Make the most of what you have left." The words lingered in the air as Mr. Johnson disconnected the call, contemplating the missed opportunities and the unfulfilled desires that now seemed painfully out of reach. In the solitude of his living room, he faced the harsh reality of his impending mortality, a revelation that would reshape his priorities and set him on an unexpected journey. Determined to test the humanity of his restaurant managers, Mr. Johnson decided to take matters into his own hands. He donned a carefully crafted disguise, an old man's attire complete with a hunchback, spectacles, and a worn-out hat. With a tremor in his step, he ventured into one of his establishments, eager to witness firsthand how his employees treated their customers. As he entered the restaurant, the aroma of freshly cooked meals enveloped him. He approached the hostess, Jenny, who glanced up with an indifferent expression. "Table for one?" she asked, her eyes scanning the reservation book. The disguised Mr. Johnson, feigning a frail voice, nodded. "Yes, dear." "A quiet corner, if you please." Jenny, unaware of the ruse, led him to a secluded table near the back. "Here you go. Your server will be with you shortly," she mumbled, already turning her attention to the next waiting customer. As Mr. Johnson settled into his seat, he observed the bustling restaurant. His disguise seemed effective as no one paid much attention to the inconspicuous elderly man. A waiter, Mark, approached the table with a forced smile. "Good evening, sir. Have you had a chance to look at the menu, Mr. Johnson, keeping up the act, replied with a weak smile. "Yes, young man. I'll have the special of the day, please." Mark scribbled the order on his notepad and scurried away, leaving Mr. Johnson to observe the interactions around him. The atmosphere seemed tense, and the staff appeared more concerned with their tasks than attending to the needs of the customers. A commotion at the adjacent table caught Mr. Johnson's attention. A customer raised concerns about the delayed service, only to be met with indifference from the manager on duty, Sarah. Mr. Johnson strained to hear their conversation. "Customer, we've been waiting for ages." "What's the holdup?" Sarah, dismissively. "Apologies, sir. We're dealing with a busy night." "Your order will be out soon." The disguised Mr. Johnson, taking mental notes, began to sense a pattern of apathy and indifference. It wasn't the atmosphere he had hoped for. As the evening progressed, Mr. Johnson experienced more instances of neglect from the staff, leaving him disappointed and frustrated. The test of humanity proved to be revealing, but not in the way he had anticipated. With each encounter, he became more determined to uncover the true nature of his employees and make decisions that would reshape the future of his restaurants. Disguised as an elderly man, Mr. Johnson continued his quest to test the humanity of his restaurant managers. His chosen restaurant, a lively establishment with a steady flow of customers, presented an ideal setting for his undercover scrutiny. As he sat at his inconspicuous corner table, a waitress named Lisa approached with a forced smile. "Good evening, sir. Have you decided on your order?" The disguised Mr. Johnson, playing his role convincingly, replied, "Yes, my dear. I'll have the chicken Alfredo, please. And a glass of your house red." Lisa jotted down the order, seemingly disinterested, and walked away without a second glance. Mr. Johnson couldn't help but feel a growing sense of disappointment. Observing the interactions around him, he noticed a commotion at the nearby table. A couple, clearly dissatisfied, waved over the manager, Stephen, who approached with a strained smile. "Customer, this service is terrible. We've been waiting forever, and our food is cold." Stephen, defensively, "I apologize for the inconvenience. We're dealing with a high volume of orders tonight." "I'll see what I can do." The couple exchanged frustrated glances as Stephen walked away without offering a resolution. It became apparent that the issues extended beyond the inexperienced cook from the first chapter. Meanwhile, Lisa returned with Mr. Johnson's order, placing the plate on the table with a lack of care. "Here you go, sir. Enjoy." The disguised Mr. Johnson took a bite, the disappointment evident on his face. As he observed the staff, He realized the lack of enthusiasm and empathy had seeped into every aspect of the restaurant. At another table, a family with young children waited patiently for their meals. As their patience wore thin, the mother approached a passing waiter, Mike, to inquire about the delay. "Mother, excuse me, our kids are getting restless. Can we get our food soon?" Mike, dismissively, "We're doing our best. It's busy tonight. Your order will be out when it's ready." The mother, frustrated, returned to her table, casting disapproving glances towards the kitchen. Mr. Johnson, growing increasingly dismayed, made mental notes of the staff's behavior. By the end of the evening, it became clear that the restaurant was plagued by a culture of indifference and rudeness. The rude realizations left Mr. Johnson disheartened but determined to address the issues head-on. The need for change had never been more evident, and the fate of his restaurants hung in the balance. Determined to find a glimmer of compassion in his restaurant managers, Mr. Johnson, still in disguise, ventured into another of his establishments. This time, he entered a restaurant known for its upscale ambience and attentive service, a stark contrast to the disappointments he had faced thus far. As he shuffled towards the entrance, a hostess named Emma greeted him with a warm smile. "Good evening, sir. How many in your party?" the disguised Mr. Johnson, taken aback by the genuine warmth, responded, "Just me, dear." "A quiet table, if you please." Emma led him to a cozy corner, away from the bustling crowd. "Here you go. Your server will be with you shortly. Enjoy your evening." Seated comfortably, Mr. Johnson observed the staff moving with precision and grace. The atmosphere exuded professionalism and a genuine desire to provide a positive dining experience. A waiter, James, approached the table with a friendly demeanor. "Good evening, sir. My name is James, and I'll be taking care of you tonight. Have you had a chance to look at the menu?" The disguised Mr. Johnson, pleasantly surprised, replied, "Yes, James. I'll start with the soup of the day and the catch of the day, please." James nodded. "Excellent choice, sir. Your order will be right up." As Mr. Johnson enjoyed the carefully prepared meal, he couldn't help but notice the attentive and courteous interactions around him. The manager, Scott, moved gracefully between tables, ensuring every customer's needs were met. At a neighboring table, a couple expressed their appreciation for the impeccable service. "Customer, we just wanted to commend your staff. The service here is exceptional." Scott, humbly, "Thank you so much. We strive to provide the best experience for our guests." The couple nodded appreciatively as Scott moved on, maintaining the high standard of service. Towards the end of the evening, as James brought Mr. Johnson the dessert menu, the disguised restaurant owner couldn't help but express his gratitude. "Mr. Johnson, James, you and the staff here have made my evening truly enjoyable. Thank you for the excellent service." James, genuinely smiling, "It's our pleasure, sir. We hope to see you again soon." As Mr. Johnson left the restaurant, he felt a renewed sense of hope. The unexpected haven he discovered in the upscale establishment rekindled his belief in the potential for compassion within his business. With a sense of clarity, he knew that change was not only possible but necessary for the future of his restaurants. Emboldened by the positive experience at the upscale restaurant, Mr. Johnson decided it was time to reveal his true identity to Scott and the staff. The next day, he made his way to the well-managed establishment, determined to address the issues that had plagued his other restaurants. Entering the restaurant, Mr. Johnson immediately noticed the calm and efficient atmosphere. Scott, the manager, approached with a warm smile. "Scott, good afternoon, sir. How can we assist you today, Mr. Johnson, revealing his true identity with a smile. "Scott, it's me, Mr. Johnson, the owner. I've been undercover, testing the waters in my other restaurants." Scott's eyes widened in surprise as he shook Mr. Johnson's hand. "Scott, I had no idea, sir." "What brings you here today, Mr. Johnson?" Gesturing to the staff. "I've witnessed both the disappointments and successes in my establishments. Your restaurant, Scott, has shown me that excellence is achievable. I want to commend you and your team for their outstanding service." Scott, humbly, "Thank you, sir. We aim for the highest standards here." As Mr. Johnson walked through the restaurant, he engaged with various staff members, expressing his gratitude for their commitment to excellence. The revelation of his identity prompted genuine smiles and appreciation from the employees. Mr. Johnson then called for a staff meeting, addressing all the employees in the restaurant. "Mr. Johnson, I've seen both the challenges and triumphs within our restaurants. The experiences have led me to make some important decisions. Scott, I want to offer you a significant role in managing all the establishments. Your dedication has not gone unnoticed." Scott, honored, "Thank you, sir. I'm ready to take on the responsibility." As the news spread among the staff, excitement and optimism filled the air. Later that day, Mr. Johnson gathered all the managers from his other restaurants for a meeting. The stark contrast in their reactions became evident as he shared his observations. "Mr. Johnson, there will be changes in the management structure. Scott will oversee all the restaurants, implementing the standards we've seen here." Maria, a skeptical manager from a troubled restaurant, "What about us? Why is he getting the opportunity, Mr. Johnson?" Firmly, "Scott has demonstrated exceptional leadership and commitment. It's time for a fresh approach to ensure the success of our establishments." The news was met with mixed reactions, but the message was clear: a new era was beginning, and the truth had been unveiled. The success of Scott's restaurant served as a beacon of hope, guiding Mr. Johnson's decision to reshape the future of his business. With the decision to appoint Scott as the overarching manager of all his restaurants, Mr. Johnson knew it was time to gather the team and formalize the transition. The meeting room in Scott's successful restaurant served as the setting for this pivotal chapter. As the managers gathered, a mix of anticipation and tension filled the air. Mr. Johnson, flanked by Scott, began the meeting. "Mr. Johnson, thank you all for being here. As you know, I've been conducting evaluations in our restaurants, and the results have been eye-opening." Maria, still skeptical, "So, what's the plan, Mr. Johnson? Are we getting new management?" Mr. Johnson, with a measured tone, "Indeed. Scott here has consistently demonstrated exceptional leadership and a commitment to excellence. He will now be overseeing all our establishments." A murmur of surprise and whispers rippled through the room. Scott, standing beside Mr. Johnson, maintained a composed demeanor. "Scott, I appreciate the trust, and I'm excited about the opportunity to work with each of you to bring about positive changes." As the meeting progressed, Mr. Johnson outlined the restructuring plan, emphasizing the need for a standardized approach to management and service. Some managers resisted the change, expressing concerns about potential disruptions. Charlie, a manager known for his adaptability, spoke up, "If this means we can improve and become more successful, count me in. Let's give it a shot." Mr. Johnson, nodding in approval, "That's the spirit, Charlie. Scott has a proven track record, and I believe this is the right step for the future of our restaurants." Throughout the meeting, Scott addressed the managers individually, reassuring them of his collaborative approach and commitment to supporting their growth. As the session concluded, Mr. Johnson spoke directly to Scott. "Mr. Johnson, Scott, the torch is now passed to you. Lead with the same dedication you've shown here, and let's bring about positive change together." Scott, with determination, "I won't let you down, Mr. Johnson." I'm ready for the challenge. The managers left the meeting room with a mix of apprehension and curiosity about the changes ahead. The torch had been passed, marking the beginning of a new chapter for Mr. Johnson's restaurants. The success of Scott's leadership in one establishment was now entrusted to guide the entire fleet towards a more prosperous future. With the restructuring plan in place and Scott at the helm, the restaurants underwent a transformation. The once chaotic kitchens and indifferent service were gradually replaced by a renewed sense of purpose and a commitment to excellence. As the changes took effect, Mr. Johnson visited each restaurant to witness the progress firsthand. The first stop was the once troubled establishment where he had encountered the inexperienced cook and witnessed the chaos in the kitchen. Entering the restaurant, Mr. Johnson was greeted by an atmosphere of controlled hustle. Maria, the manager who had initially resisted the changes, approached him cautiously. Maria, cautiously, Mr. Johnson, we're trying to adapt, but it's not easy. Scott has been implementing some rigorous standards, Mr. Johnson, firmly, Maria, these standards are meant to elevate our establishments. Trust the process, and you'll see positive results. The kitchen, once a scene of disorder, now operated smoothly under the guidance of a new head chef. The changes were evident in the quality of the food and the efficiency of the staff. The next destination was the restaurant where he had faced rude realizations about the staff's indifference. As he walked through the doors, the atmosphere had shifted. The hostess, Jenny, now exuded warmth and genuine hospitality. Jenny, smiling, Mr. Johnson, welcome back. We're working hard to create a positive dining experience for our guests, Mr. Johnson, pleased, I can see that, Jenny. Keep up the good work. The changes continued to resonate across all the restaurants. The staff, once disheartened, embraced the new standards with enthusiasm. The customers noticed the difference, and positive reviews started pouring in. At a meeting with Scott and the managers, Mr. Johnson expressed his satisfaction. Mr. Johnson, I've seen the improvements, and I'm proud of the positive changes. Scott, you've led this transformation remarkably. Scott, modestly, thank you, sir. It's been a collective effort. The team has embraced the changes, and we're committed to maintaining these standards. The atmosphere in the meeting room was one of optimism and a shared commitment to the future. The managers, once skeptical, now saw the potential for success in the revitalized restaurants. As Mr. Johnson left the meeting, he reflected on the journey. The restaurants, once plagued by chaos and indifference, were now on a path to success under Scott's leadership. The new beginning marked not only a transformation in the business but also a rekindling of hope for Mr. Johnson's legacy in the culinary world.